Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach and I'm going to continue working on C# 11 features in Rocks. Going to do the generic attributes one now. The stuff I did in the previous episode, I was fixing all the broken tests and everything else off camera, but that's all working now, so all the tests are passing, so we're good that way. Actually, there's one test I want to make sure. Yeah, I did uncomment that. This one is something I have as an issue in Rocks, is to take this out and make it a console app, because this takes a long time to run and it has value, but I don't want it running as a test. This is more of an exploratory, what can potentially fail with things in Rocks. So yeah, I just want to make sure that that also ran as well. Still fighting a cold, still fighting congestion, but you know, it is what it is. All right, so hopefully this should go fairly quickly in, famous last words, but I'm hoping that this doesn't take too long to get through. The one thing though, my wife and I were doing a long car ride yesterday. We went down to southeastern Minnesota to visit one of her sisters who came up from Wisconsin, dropped off a bunch of plants, and then we took them home. And, on these long drives, I'll sometimes just start thinking about certain things like, how do I do stuff in Rocks or other programming problems? And this was one of them. And one of the things I want to also check is what happens when we have multiple attributes on a member. Not necessarily a method definition. I think that all works fine. But if it was a parameter and you have multiple attribute definitions on the parameter, what happens? Yeah, how does that translate? And I want to make sure that's also working as well. So we're actually going to just have an attribute generator test here. And the first thing we're going to do is create, which arguably is like some of these, I think like the attribute allow null generator test is a form of an attribute generator test. Yeah, because it has allow null on there. Yeah, gotta change the name of the class here. But we'll keep them separate for now. Generate with generic attribute. Async. So we'll do something in that one, and then generate with multiple attributes on method parameter. I think those are the only two in here. No, there are more. I'm just going to get rid of these because we don't need them. Okay. So the first one, let's go to our famous friend sharplab.io. And we're on main. Okay, so what I want to make sure is that we have a public CL class. My attribute. No, it's okay, T, which derives from attribute. And you're good. Okay. And let's do attribute usage, because for this test, we're just going to say targets. We're going to just say it's on a method. Okay. And so we could do my attribute of string, and that should be just fine. And it is. So, okay, so that's kind of what we want here. So I'll grab that. Okay, and then we want except it's foo. And we now need to do that and that. And then way down here, we're going to eventually have that. Okay, so I kind of want to run this and just see what gets spit out. Oh yeah, you don't like that. And now you do. We'll just put an A there. A. So we're just kind of curious to see what this will do without me doing anything. Does it just work right? I'm kind of thinking no, but we'll see. Okay, it failed as expected. The thing we want to see is how did it fail? My. Okay, we're done. That's exactly right. That is exactly what it should do. Of course, I'm not going to get the test to pass, but yeah, that is 100% what that is supposed to do. I don't see like anything else that it needs. My, yeah, because I could say my attribute because it is, yeah. Okay. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's Labor Day when I'm doing this. And so it's kind of nice to have one massive amount of success right out of the gate. I think we just need one here, right? Now that should work. Now we'll compile. Because now the diff will match, but does it actually compile? No, it doesn't. Oh, it's because there's some... Oh, that crap. Okay. That is one thing I wish worked a little better, is that you do need this indentation here. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Just going to assume that's not there. In this one, I know I did. So we'll see if we missed any other diffs, and then hopefully it compiles. And it passes. Yay. Much rejoicing. Yay. Generic attributes are supported. Done. Don't you love it where you are able just to support something and it just works and you don't have to do anything. It just works. Now this one's going to be a little bit more interesting. Let's go back to Sharp Lab because we want to make sure it works. Okay. So we want 2 of these. And now what we want is to see if I have parameter 1. Two. That should, yeah, so that should work. So just want to make sure I'm defining these correctly. Okay. Dear Lord. I know it doesn't matter with the spacing there, but you know. And this shouldn't matter. I mean, the way I'm defining it here, I could do it, you know, and arguably this is where you'd want it to be like this. Maybe that reads a little bit better, but it's the same thing. It shouldn't matter. Okay. So we have multiple attributes there, and the name of the thing is going to be different. And we need this to be A. And so what is this going to actually produce? Well, I think it's going to produce something. I just don't know if it's going to produce the right thing, but we're going to find out. Just real quick, I'm kind of wondering, does it end up doing something like this, which would technically be fine? It would compile, and that's really all I want. But I am curious as to what it's actually going to do. Okay, let's see what it generated. Nope, I want to go over here. Let's close this. Oh, fine, we're good. It didn't really do... Oh, we want it to be a create, not a make, but that's fine. Because it's not really about, did it just generate the right code, is really what we care about. I was like, why is it so small? But yeah. This shouldn't be a create or make issue. This is just, does it do it correctly? And I may have this as a test already somewhere, but that's okay. Because you can always have more than one test. Is the name wrong? I create. Oh, there we go. That would matter. Now, what do you generate? Yep, you're good. That's just fine. Except now we have to do the cleanup code thingy. That plus, okay. And then anywhere where, well, that's interesting. It seems to think that there is tabs here in Notepad. Like you can maybe see my cursor moving around. It thinks that there are tabs here, but it doesn't actually, it doesn't seem to translate over when I copy and paste into here, which I guess is fine. It's just kind of annoying because then I got to come back in here and do all this again. I wonder if there's some trick I can figure out so that it preserves all white space when you copy and paste like that. And yes, this little line here that shows up is on my mind. All right. And it passes. Good. 62 multiple attributes on a parameter work just fine. So really, in this episode, I've done nothing. I've done absolutely nothing. Just checking that everything works. I mean, yes, I've checked that a new feature in C# 11 is going to work, and it does, and that's awesome. You know, good. And I checked to make sure that this would always work, and it does. Good, great. You know, but I really haven't had to change any code, which is kind of nice. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this episode a little short so that the next one is all based on the required init property thing. And just to give you a little bit of a feel for where I'm going with that, let's close that out, that out. So yeah, this is done. Now the one thing with required, I've talked about this before, I have to find all the properties that have either inits on them or they are required, one or the other. And they don't have to be virtual or not. It doesn't matter, because you could be giving me a class that has a non-virtual property on it, but it's required. I still have to have a way to set that. So just to make sure, these are any accessible instance properties, virtual or non-virtual, that are required or have an init. One or the other, doesn't matter. Okay. It can be required and init, as long as it has one of these. Then what I'm going to do is create a record here. This is one of the things that when I went on my drive yesterday, I was thinking about and creating this type, and I went, wait a minute. You can't use records in .NET Standard 2.0 projects, I think. But we can generate code that has records. That's fine. And so I thought, well, I'm going to capture all the property types and names, and they'll be whatever they are. And then we'll create a record that will give us everything we need in one line of code. Okay. And then what we need to do is add to the instance methods. So something like EG would be like, I think this interface, we don't care what it is. We'll say iPerson. No, we'll say person. Here. Self. Then we would have constructor parameters. No, we want these. They're not parameters. They're properties. Naming matters. And then we can just say constructor properties. We'll just call it that. And then whatever else you do at the end doesn't matter. Okay. Then you just continue on with what you have there. Then when you generate it, all you would do is something like in the generated code, we would do something like return new mock person, which who knows what it takes on construction. But what we would do before we return it is we would map all the properties. So we would say first name is equal to constructor properties dot first name, comma, what else? Well, what else do we have here? Age is equal to constructor properties dot age. And now I'm just realizing something, but I'm going to continue. And I probably would put a comma at the end because, reasons, but that's okay. C# lets you do that. But here's the thing I just realized is if you have an emitter that's not required, you don't necessarily have to set it on construction. It just means that that's the only time that you can do it if you want to. So this approach actually is a little bit of a bummer, because what happens if ID or age is not required? Well, now I'm forcing you to set it. I'm forcing you to give me something. And yeah, now, and unfortunately, now that I do this, this is not going to turn out to be user generated type. So what we want is something like public sealed constructor properties. And it's got to be a class. Well, it doesn't have to be a class, but, and then we would say, like, let's say person has required first name and ID, but age is just init. So what we would generate here is public, or I guess here we could make them public. Maybe the accessibility is something else, like internal, whatever. But for this type, we're okay with this being a public thing. So we can say public required string first name, and then we would just say get and set public int age get and init, and then public GUID ID, which is also required get. And let's say that's an init as well. It doesn't matter, but okay. So now we pass that in, and the generated code, if you were using it, like if you said var mock is equal to expectations dot instance, then your first parameter would be a new, and we can use, you can use if you want target type new, and then da da da. We don't care what else is here. But now here we could say first name is equal to JSON, ID is equal to GUID.new GUID, and that's it. Bob's your uncle. Okay. So we'll still set, like for age there, we'll still set it to whatever is in the constructor properties, but that would just be the default because that's what's there and we don't care. And if you don't set it, that's up to you. You could set to whatever. But that way you get a very nice, yeah, this is better. The record type would have been a little bit nicer because it would have been a little bit less code to generate, but it doesn't give the exact semantics of what I'm looking for. I want it to be required or not. So I'm actually glad I took this time to go through this, because this, I think, makes it just a little bit cleaner. So now in the next episode, what we have to do is all this work. We got to find all them. Then we have to create a generated type. And then for each instance method, we need to add it as technically the first, but the second parameter. And then the generated code, whenever we're creating them, we need to create this list to say, do that. And that should be it. Yeah, so I'm going to probably go on a bike ride this morning and do some lunch. So once I get done with all that this afternoon, because again, it's Labor Day, got all day just to hang out and have fun and do stuff. I will get back to this and hopefully do a couple of episodes, and we'll see how long this takes. And then once this is done, Other than static, abstract, and members, I don't think there's anything else in C# 11 that I really need to support. So I may do a release. I'm not sure. I'll think about it. But that's the plan for the next episode. So thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.